I'm not lying. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. And
has your dad seen the movie?
Mm-mm.
Good. You don't want your dad seeing that movie.
No.
Has your mom seen?
The backstage lights were still dim, the air faintly humming with the echo of machines shutting down. The kind of quiet that arrives only after the applause has faded and the last crew member has gone home. Sam Heughan sat before the mirror, his reflection framed by tired bulbs that no longer seemed to shine as brightly as they once did. His eyes, usually alive with the warmth of confidence and charm, now held a softer light, something fragile, something that trembled between strength and exhaustion. On stage, he had always been a man of magnitude. Tall, masculine, effortlessly humorous, his presence commanding yet inviting. But behind that strength lay a hidden echo, a sound that only silence could reveal. For the first time, with no lights, no stylists, no handlers, and only a small camera in front of him, Sam decided to open the box he had kept sealed for years. He said quietly that fear is a strange thing. It never vanishes, it only hides in success, waiting for solitude to invite it back. And that night, as he began to speak, he revealed 9 private pains, each carved into his journey, each unknown to those who cheered his name. When the interview aired, there was no shock in his words, only truth. But truth, when it comes from someone the world believes invincible, has a way of breaking hearts. The world fell silent, because each pain he revealed was not just his own. It was a mirror to something deeply human. He began with loneliness, the loneliness behind the spotlight. "Every time I step out on stage," he said softly, "I hear the applause, the cheers, the laughter. It's beautiful, but it's also like being lost in a maze of lights." He paused then, looking at the reflection of his own face, perhaps wondering how many times that same face had smiled when the heart beneath it was weary. "People think the sound of applause fills you," he continued, "but sometimes it empties you, because when the sound fades, you're left wondering if it was really for you, the person, or for the image." He described the moments after the shows, when the dressing room grows quiet, when the last footsteps echo down the empty hallway, when only the soft buzz of the mirror light remains. "That's when the silence becomes deafening," he confessed, "because all that's left is you, no character, no costume, no camera, just you and whatever's left of your soul." In those moments, he said, he often felt a strange blend of gratitude and grief. Gratitude for the love of his fans, but grief for the person he no longer recognized when the applause ended. Then came the pressure of expectation, the burden of perfection that fame quietly demands. "People have built an image of me," Sam admitted, "a version that I'm expected to be every day. Strong, noble, kind, charming, flawless. And I try, I really do, but sometimes it feels like I'm acting even when I'm not on camera." He smiled faintly, a tired smile. "It's a strange kind of prison, isn't it? When people love a version of you that doesn't fully exist." He spoke about the fear that grows out of that, the fear of disappointing others, of saying the wrong thing, of being seen without the armor of charm. "Every step I take, every word I say, I weigh it," he said. "Not because I want to, but because I have to. People don't realize how much of an actor's life is spent managing the expectations of strangers." He talked about scrolling through social media after long days of filming, reading both the praise and the criticism. "It's not the hate that hurts," he said. "It's the love. Because you start to wonder whether people would still love you if they saw you without the polish, without the hero they imagine." Then, as the conversation turned inward, he spoke of something more tender. The small pains of childhood that never quite fade, no matter how many years pass. He said he grew up in a family shaped by strength and silence. His mother, he described as fierce, capable, endlessly strong. The kind of woman who held the world together with her bare hands. His father, distant but not cruel, lived like a shadow, always there, never fully present. "I loved him," Sam said, "but I never understood him." He remembered lying awake at night, listening to muffled voices behind closed doors, the sound of his father knocking softly, the gentle rhythm of arguments that never turned violent but always left a heaviness in the air. "I used to ask myself, What can I do to make them not sad? He said quietly. And that's when I learned to be quiet. I learned not to disturb. I learned to hold my tears. That habit, he realized, followed him into adulthood, the instinct to protect others by suppressing his own emotions. People often tell me I'm calm, composed, patient, he reflected. But that calm comes from years of holding things in. He paused for a long time after that, looking down at his hands, large, strong, but trembling slightly under the weight of his memories. He admitted that even success can feel like a continuation of those childhood lessons. To perform, to please, to never let the world see the cracks. It's strange, he said, how the little boy who tried not to make his parents sad grows up into a man who tries not to make his fans disappointed. He laughed softly at the irony, but his eyes were wet. Sometimes I wonder if the applause I chase is just the sound of wanting to be told I'm enough. As the interview went on, his voice changed, lower, more reflective, almost detached. He spoke of the exhaustion that comes from being everyone's idea of perfection. People think acting is glamorous, he said, but it's also incredibly lonely. You give so much of yourself to stories that aren't yours, that after a while, you forget what your own story sounds like. He talked about the nights when he'd come home after shooting emotionally charged scenes, too drained to sleep, sitting in the dark with a drink in hand, feeling both proud and hollow. I've learned that fame doesn't heal you, he said. It magnifies whatever was already there. If you were lonely before, you become lonelier. If you were insecure, you become more so. The lights don't cure the darkness. They just make it harder to hide. He recalled the early days of his career when he was still unknown, auditioning for roles he rarely got. Back then, I had hunger, he said. Now I have expectations, mine, the studio's, the world's. And sometimes I miss that hunger. It was simpler. He remembered sleeping on friends' couches, carrying a backpack full of scripts, dreaming of a break that would change everything. And it did, he admitted. But not in the way I expected. I thought success would make me feel seen. Instead, it made me more invisible. That paradox of being known by millions but understood by none became one of his greatest struggles. People think they know me, he said, but most of them only know Jamie Fraser. They don't know the man who still feels like that boy trying to fix the sadness in the room. There was a certain gentleness in how he spoke. Not bitterness, not complaint, but a quiet reckoning. He said he wasn't ashamed of his pain. He just wished people understood that heroes can ache too. We've built this culture, he explained, where vulnerability is entertainment but not empathy. People want to hear your pain, but they don't want to hold it with you. He smiled faintly at his own words, the kind of smile that comes when you've spent too long learning how to hide behind it. That's why I decided to speak tonight, he said finally. Because silence can be noble, but it can also be a cage. And I've lived long enough in cages, even the beautiful ones. When the cameras stopped rolling, there was a stillness in the room that no one dared to break. It wasn't the silence of discomfort but of understanding. For the first time, the man who had spent years portraying a hero on screen had allowed himself to simply be human. And perhaps that was his most powerful performance, not in pretending to be strong, but in daring to show where he had been broken. For behind the applause, behind the magazine covers, behind the carefully crafted perfection, there was a boy who learned early how to stay quiet. And
careers proved to be a challenge, with Dakota deeply involved in filming the 50 Shades trilogy and Matthew touring with his band.
There was a loss that Sam Heughan had never truly spoken about, a quiet grief buried beneath the applause and acclaim. When he entered the acting profession, he didn't just give up anonymity. He gave up something far more intimate, the dream of an ordinary life, the kind where one could walk through a street without being recognized, sit at a cafe without being photographed, or love someone without the scrutiny of 1,000 curious eyes. He confessed that he had once loved someone deeply, someone he had believed would be his life partner. But as his career expanded, so did the distance between them. There had been no confrontation, no angry words, just the slow erosion of closeness, the kind of quiet heartbreak that leaves no scars but never quite heals. Even now, when he sees that person's photograph or watches them appear in a film, a small ache returns. Not one of regret, but of remembrance. A tender wound that time has not erased. Yet love was only one of the sacrifices. His mental well-being, too, had been a casualty of success. Sam revealed that there was a period when depression gripped him so deeply that he could barely leave his bed. The anxiety was relentless. Sleepless nights, loss of appetite, staring into the mirror at a face he could barely recognize. He described it as being trapped inside a shadow, watching life move on from behind an invisible wall. What made it worse was the silence, the expectation that a man, a public figure, should bear his struggles privately. To admit despair was to risk being labeled weak, unstable, or ungrateful. And so, he smiled for cameras while inside he was unraveling, pretending that fame was fulfillment when it often felt like isolation. Even at the height of his success with Outlander, when his name was known around the world, Sam carried the persistent fear of being forgotten. "It's strange," he said. "You can be celebrated everywhere and still feel replaceable." With each new project came the pressure to exceed himself, to be better, more captivating, more perfect. An endless race against his own shadow. And at night, when all was quiet, that fear grew louder, whispering that one day the lights would dim, and the world would move on without him. Rumors didn't help. Over the years, he had become a target of false stories. Whispers about affairs, his character, his integrity. Things that spread faster than truth ever could. Once, when a false story linked him romantically to a co-star, he chose silence rather than confrontation, hoping it would fade. But silence, he realized, can sometimes feed the fire. "It wasn't just my image that was hurt," he admitted. "It was my heart. Because even when you say nothing, you still bleed." Fame, he reflected, had cost him more than he ever anticipated. It took away his freedom, the peaceful anonymity of small joys. Reading by the window at dawn, making his own coffee, taking long walks without purpose or disguise. Life became a cycle of airports, studios, cameras, and scripts. "Sometimes," he said, "I'd come home and not even know how to rest. I was too tired to talk, too tired to feel." That exhaustion didn't come from the work itself, but from the weight of constant expectation. To perform, to please, to stay strong. "Being strong," he said softly, "became my greatest burden." There were moments, after interviews or press events, when the facade cracked and tears would come, quiet, hidden, almost apologetic. No one saw them, and perhaps that was the point. "I wasn't afraid of failing," he confessed. "I was afraid of falling apart where people could see." To the world, he remained unbreakable, the embodiment of control and charm.